So let's have a look at WorkPoint Express and what it's all about. As you probably know, WorkPoint Express is the front end for four main products. WorkPoint Server, for those of you who are running WorkPoint on-premise, WorkPoint 365 for WorkPoint in the cloud, and for some of you also running standard SharePoint solutions, SharePoint Server or SharePoint Online, WorkPoint Express is also a nice front end for that. WorkPoint Express can be run as a plugin to Office or as a standalone product. Some of you may be using both. Most people will be using the one that's plugged into Office. I will demonstrate both of these. WorkPoint Express in Outlook will be familiar for most people, looking like this. This is the window in all the Office applications, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. For those of you who are unfamiliar with WorkPoint Express as a standalone, you will, when you have WorkPoint Express, you will find it in your Start menu in Windows, where you have a WorkPoint Express desktop icon. And it will be looking, just starting it up, and it will be looking like this. Takes a little while to load because I have quite a few solutions connected to my WorkPoint Express. It does the same as the plugin in Outlook does. You can do the same things. It's just a more convenient little thing to have running if you're not working in your Office environment. But you can access all your solutions and all your data through the desktop application. So I'm mostly going to show you stuff in the Office application, but now that this is here, you might want to have a try around with playing with the standalone version if you haven't tried it before. It's a relatively new thing that we launched the standalone version, the desktop version, and we haven't promoted it very much, so some of you might not know about it. Anyway, just like last webinar, we have gone a bit away from the video setup, so we're doing an online demo, meaning that something can go wrong, hopefully not, but just so you know it, we will be working with the live WorkPoint Express. The WorkPoint Express, all the front-end icons and functions I'm not going to talk about today. You more probably know all these already, but depending on how your system has been set up, the settings tab can be relevant for you. You might or might not have access to this as a user, depends on how your organization have set your system up. But probably you will be able to go to settings and see this screen. Here is all the solutions that you can access. You would normally only have one, or maybe don't see anything because it's managed centrally. This is for my specific setup. But the behavior tab is where a lot of function is hidden, and some of these might be quite easy to understand, and some of them might be very strange looking. So I'm going to go through some of these. I'm not going to go through all of it, as we only have around 25 minutes. So I'll take some of the select one that I believe that would have most interest for people. Sorry. The first one checked here, all the general settings, is what the things that you'll be using most of the time. Some of them will, as I said, require no explanation, automatically show sidebar when Outlook starts up. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you disable that one, you will have to manually click to get your WorkPoint to show. I don't know if anybody are using that, but it can be. The next one is a funny one because I must admit that the phrasing of this is a bit too techy. What it does is actually that when you check this and save your settings, you will now experience whenever you create a new mail, WorkPoint Express is opening in the window here. So it will simply change that when you open a mail or any other window in Outlook, you will have WorkPoint Express unfolded as normally you would have this view. So that's pretty much all it does. It's an individual thing whether you want to run that or not, depending on how much you need it when you're working with your emails. There'll be a lot of clicking into the settings during this webinar. The properties, some of you may work a lot with document properties or similar things, and depending on whether you check this one or not, you will have your properties shown in a separate window. So either it will be shown, the document properties will be shown as a window connected to the right-hand pane, or it will pop up in a new window. So if we click there and close it, let's see if we can find the document. If I go here and say I want to see the properties, remember the properties can be accessed from here or simply right click as well. You can get the properties as well here. But now I will get this pop-up window to edit my document properties. And if I didn't have that checked, it will simply open below here. The problem with having it below opening here is sometimes you don't have the screen resolution and the space to work properly with your properties. So this is an easier way if you edit the properties a lot. Going back to the settings. You can also have this automatically show up, the properties to open as soon as you select an item. Obviously, having these two connected, both switched on, will give you a lot of pop-up windows, which will be very unhandy. But if you just have this one switched on, you will always get the properties to show up below the WorkPoint Express when you click an item. Another important one to know is this one, move dropped emails from Outlook as default. Now that also can be a bit strange to understand what actually is happening. But the fact is that when I do copy a mail, drag and drop an email from Outlook to WorkPoint Express, it will, by default, it will copy. What happens here is, in fact, if I check this, I'm in one process taking my email from my Outlook into WorkPoint Express and deleting it from Outlook. So it's simply a move, and you won't have your email in WorkPoint, in Outlook anymore. So that's what this one does. I'm not going to show that because most people will probably understand. Going down to these items here where you can select various things. Document double click. This thing tells you what is going to happen when you double click on an icon on a document. I have set my default as an edit, but you can choose to have it read only. The document will simply open and be read only. I find that annoying because then you have to click another one to actually edit the document. But if you only read and view a lot of document and not editing them, that might be an easier solution. This one is the ask facility will give you a little pop-up dialog, and I'm going to show you. So if we find the document again, we can here double click, and now I get this. What do you want to do? Read only or edit? Again, it's an individual thing whether you would like to choose this. Personally, I prefer just to edit it, but again, you have the option. I'll put this back to edit. These two are the property management. Just as we talked about before, where you can edit the properties, you can also have this happening in on the fly when you when you add something to WorkPoint Express, you can get a dialog where you get the opportunity to edit the document properties when you add it to WorkPoint Express. Either you can do it always, you can try never, or you can have it when your document is checked out. A note here is that WorkPoint also supports automatic inheritance of metadata. So if you have this set up where you have all your documents automatically tagged with relevant metadata, then this should not be an issue for you, because then you probably don't not want this. But let's try and set this to always to just to display what's going on. Now I want to drag something to my document list here. I have a mail with an attached document from the last my travel. Dragging it to my document list will now provide me with a pop-up saying, here are your properties, and those that are editable, I can change these. If I want to change the names, for example, would be one way. Title. But any document properties you would have here, you would be able to edit. So this makes it easier for the user if you have rules about properties that need to be set when you're adding documents or emails to a list. I'll get this back to never. Now, there's document list and there's mail list and there's email manager. For those of you who are a little confused here, well, document list is what I just showed to you. The email list here is for those systems that are not running WorkPoint Email Manager. WorkPoint Email Manager is the auto-journalizing engine for WorkPoint. For those of you who need to know more about that, have no clue what I'm talking about, please either contact me later or ask your WorkPoint partner to give you more information about this. I'm not going to cover a lot of email manager stuff here, since this is mainly for WorkPoint Express. Just if you need to know more, we're more than happy to help. But this one, of course, is exactly the same functionality as I showed before, just with when you have a standard email list where you want to edit the properties as well when you upload this. And this one goes for email manager. If you're running that, it does the same thing. It displays your properties for the document. Now, display language, pretty much self-explanatory. Defaults with whatever you have in your office environment, or you can force it to English or Danish. Currently, these are the languages we support. We are coming out with a multi-language support at a later stage, but this is where you put the setting in. Now, journalize emails after send. This is a feature I usually have switched on. I took it off just for the benefit of this. I'm just going to show you what you do when you normally send a mail. You might want to store this mail in WorkPoint Express as well. If this one is not switched on, you will have to go to your send items folder and take the mail and drag it to WorkPoint Express. Now that's 3 or 4 clicks, which is unnecessary. When you switch this on, you will get the ability to do it all on the fly. Let's assume that I'm going to send a mail. I'm going to send a mail to my colleague Andy, and I will say test mail, do not reply. Sending this mail now will go to my send item, but it will also give me this little pop-up saying, okay, so you have sent this mail, what do you want to do with it? Now, first of all, if I don't want to do anything, I simply just click here or hit escape, it'll go away. If I do want to do something to it, I'll click it and I'll drag it. And now I have my sent mail stored in WorkPoint Express in one go. Very easy, and that makes sure that you do get a very easy way of managing your sent items. If I sent several mails, this little pop-up box would simply just list them one after the other. So if I didn't have to take it off, I could just move it, and I will have a list of mails that I could journal at a time where I had the time for it. So it can be used as a kind of a journaling queue as well. If I send something with attachments or receive stuff with attachments, I will have this checkbox switched on. I can do this. Let's annoy Andy a bit more. No reply needed. And now I'm sending this mail to Andy. It'll do the same thing as before. It'll show me a pop-up. Okay, so I want to drag this to my emails. But it'll also note that, oh, here was an attached document to this mail. So we extract this and want to take this to either drag it over here, or simply when I click it, it'll show me the available document library on the one that I have selected, on the item that I've selected. So it simply shows me this document library here, and I can say, oh, do I want to add it to this open item? If I do, very easy. If not, I can search another one here and drag it to that one. Simply drag it over just as I did before. But if in the case that I actually wanted this one that I had open, I would just drag it down here. And now we have extracted, we've sent the mail, we've filed the mail, and we've extracted the attachment and filed it in the document library here. Now, going back to settings, we note we have this journalized flag, and I can choose a flag color. What this does is simply displaying in your inbox that this mail has been journalized in SharePoint. This one is for the setups where you're not running Email Manager. If you're running Email Manager, it will look a little bit different. So, for example, when I have this one, green and saying auto journalize, this is because my system is set up with the Email Manager, so it automatically is journaled into the system, and I will have a note here saying, okay, this is journalized. So my mail is tagged that this mail is already in WorkPoint. This one is managed manually. Whenever I drag an email, I will get this color to it. So this one has not yet been dragged anywhere. So I'll simply say, okay, let's get this over here. It'll upload to my email, and it'll give me the note. This is journalized in SharePoint. So I'm home free. I know that my mail has been stored properly in WorkPoint. Some of these settings down here for performance, it simply is telling the system how do you want to load whenever you unfold something in WorkPoint Express. So a document library will be with or without folders. The reason for these options is that sometimes if you have a big folder structure, it can take it some time to load it, and it depends on how much waiting time do you want to have when you open something in WorkPoint Express. So you can see you have SharePoint, you have WorkPoint Server, you have WorkPoint 365. These are the chains. I'm not going to show you this, but I'm sure you get the point here. The last one for the search tree is also a bit cryptical. What does this actually mean? Now, use tab settings. This is in the WorkPoint 365 feature only. The tab settings are when you use the WorkPoint browser, going to a item. Here are the tab settings. These are the ones. Tabs. Given that WorkPoint is based on SharePoint, there are some things behind the scenes that you cannot necessarily see in the interface here. But in WorkPoint Express, you can sometimes see more stuff in the on the elements, and especially if you remove this one, you'll see a few more things that is available in SharePoint. Yeah, this is the one. Oh, right, here's a wiki pages. Wiki pages is a SharePoint feature that is not currently used in this WorkPoint setup, so that's why I wanted to get rid of it. So I only show what's on my tab web part is those things and the elements here. So I switched that off, so WorkPoint Express will in fact show me more list and pages available on the item in SharePoint. So not to confuse the users, this is normally taken off. Right, so much is all of these settings can usually be edited by you as a user. It can be managed centrally. I'll show you this. If we go to the next tab, and now it's just hanging. Oh, there we go. Something time. Yep. This will show me all the solutions I have on this one. You will usually only have one. And I can here decide which business modules do I want to see and how do I want to see them. In this case, I see all the business module in the select box up here, but let's assume that I do not want to see contracts nor employees, so I can switch them off. I can also say whenever I do a company, I want to have, for example, the document list expanded. I can choose the direction of this, what order this should come in. Let's just try to change this. So I switched off 2 of these, and I've set the document list on companies should be expanded. Makes it easier to access data if you're working with specific data all the time. First of all, now I can only see these modules because I switched off contracts and cases which were in the bottom. Going to companies, I will say advanced bicycles. Yeah, this is probably not very easy. There's no folder structure in this setup, but if we had folder structure, the document list would be opened and you would be able to see the folder structure underneath. Bad example, I'm sorry. This is the thing when you do a live demo, sometimes things are playing up a bit. But to make it easier to access the data and to make sure you're not looking at more information or more modules that you probably are not using, this is where you managed it. Switch these on again. Remove this. Going to the system is a number of sublists here. So this is telling me who can access this. This is the email list configuration is for setting up those email lists that you have in the system. This is probably very technical for most users, so I'm not going to cover this very much. But what is interesting to know is that you have the option of, again, this needs to be set up, but you have the option of handling files of certain sizes and store them somewhere else. Sometimes you will have large files that you will take up a lot of space in WorkPoint and SharePoint, and you might want to have that outside. We're talking about maybe image or video files with several megabytes each 10, 20, etc. And you can simply say, okay, I want to have on this WorkPoint, I want to have files over a certain size located on, for example, a file share somewhere. For the user, this will not be visible. It will simply look at the same setup. They will see the same document list, but some of these, if they're big files, they might be stored somewhere else. The user, it's transparent. So this requires administration setup. So that's not something you'll be able to look at yourself. You might not even have, as a user, the access to these sites. On the On the custom link, here's an interesting one. This is where you can set up shortcuts to do stuff in your WorkPoint modules. So if you, for example, want to be able to call, use a telephone integration, or if you want to look up a address on, in this case, Google Maps, you're able to get these shortcuts set up with some parameters. Again, it might be too technical for the end user, but now you know it's there, so you can go to your WorkPoint consultant and say, hey, we know that we can do small shortcuts here. Let's try and do that. I'll demonstrate this in a second. I'll just go out of this and note that before I said that all the settings on the behavior can be managed centrally. This is for your administrator, where you can choose to lock certain settings so the users will have all the same settings throughout the organization. All, as you can see, all these are unlocked, but I can lock them one at a time to force certain behavior for the users. Going back to the custom links, I'm just gonna, for the last thing, demonstrate how this works. As you can see here, I'll set up some mobile phone and other things on the menu. So the menu will look, when this is set up, the menu will look like this. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. We'll find a Microsoft Corporation, Microsoft Denmark. If I look at Microsoft Denmark, I can right click and I can call. Now this will not click this one because that'll go into my Skype. It'll take the phone number from Microsoft and get ready to call it. So I simply just click my Skype and it will call. Send an email, same thing. If I go to my supplier context, I can call direct or mobile because we have several fields here with the phone numbers, a direct call, a mobile call. Again, I can send them a mail. It'll start a wizard that will open the the phone system, in this case Skype, or it will start a new email to this specific company's contact. So on the items in WorkPoint Express, I have a customizable right-click menu where I can do certain things. I can also look it up. I can open a browser, obviously, but I can also maybe look up this account in my Dynamics NAV if I wanted to do that. Quick jump to my ERP system. So there are certain things that I can do with the right click. Again, it's not a user thing, but if it's a thing you need, then contact your WorkPoint consultant and get them to help you. This is pretty much what I want to cover. We also spent the time, so going back to my slide, just want to say thank you for your interest in WorkPoint Express. If you require any assistance, please contact your WorkPoint partner. If you can't find your partner, contact us. Make sure that you also check out the support portal, support.workpoint.dk. There are information about most of these things I've shown you and how to set it up. And there's also a lot of other information about other WorkPoint products, how to use them. Feel free to mail me with further questions. And please sign up for more webinars on our website if you want to. Thank you for your time and have a great day.